and thus attain the state of Vajradhara. Let's just do the 4 limitless contemplations. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Semchen tamche dewatang dewe jutang den pajuchik dungal tang dungal chichu tang tra wajuchik dungal mepe dewa tampatang mindra wajuchik nering chaktang ni tang tra we tanum chempola ne pajik. So, good evening, everybody. Are you let in? Tonight, we're going to do the 3rd and last part of my crazy titled lecture or talk on forgetfulness, the double-sided coin for life in Samsara. It's really, really, it's such an important subject. There she is, okay. It's such an important subject, that forgetfulness, and I'm really glad to have done 3 sessions. And during this holiday period of a month, and we'll come back at the beginning of September, let's try and go through whatever you possibly can so that you can really, go through some of the subjects on the Monday morning, like the death and dying. I think all of you should try and listen to, because I think that really gives you a good idea about everything. And the song that we did on Devachen, that song, if you know it off by heart, straight to a pure land when you die, definitely not to another rebirth. So it's well worth listening to all the Bardo teachings and what they are. So let's go back to our subject of forgetfulness. I'm going to start with a little story, and it goes like this. There is a tale of a man who fell gravely ill and then appeared to have died. His body was gathered up, washed, and placed in a coffin. All the funeral preparations were made, and the priest invited. The coffin was being carried to the graveyard. Sorry, she's not going in. The coffin was being carried to the graveyard, when there came a knocking from inside the coffin. All the funeral preparations were, the coffin was put on the ground. The lid was opened. As people stood around, he spoke up, the guy in the coffin. Sorry, Fee, are you having a hard time letting them in? Or is it just me? Sorry. As people stood around, he spoke up, the guy in the coffin. I am not dead. I have not died. You must take me out of here. But the priest in charge of carrying the coffin said, I'm sorry, sir. You can't possibly be alive. The doctor has certified your death, and the priest has also agreed upon it. Whereupon the lid was closed back down, and the man was buried as planned. Now, maybe you think, what a crazy story, that would never happen. Even though this story is a bit ludicrous, it's really important because our lives are a little bit like this story. That's why I chose it. We are so busy focusing on the plans, the outcomes, the content, the intellect. We forget to go back to the truth, of which the content is only a reflection. And it's really important for us to understand this properly. And as the Buddha said to his helper, Ananda, who was always there, Ananda said to the Buddha, I think there's never been a teacher as great as you, nor will there ever be one as great as you in the future. The Buddha asked, have you known all the awakened ones, the Buddhas of the past? No, honored one. Then I suppose you do not know this awakened one's mind completely. No, honored one. I can't even ever know your mind completely. Then how can you make such a bold statement? It's better to talk of what you know than to speculate foolishly. Now, I think it's a very good lesson, because I think that what we do half our lives is speculate. And we speculate based on our conditioning, on everything, on the ever-changing fad of life, whatever's the fad of the day at that time, whatever's fashionable knowledge, whatever's technological know-how, whatever's intellectual knowing, and so on and so forth. We actually do this all the time with our lives, every single minute. And how much of that is the truth? We've really forgotten that whatever we're experiencing is just a temporary, transient emptiness-based experience based on our own created causes and conditions. That's all everything is. Causes and conditions, nothing else. How do we get back to the essence? And I want you to remember this, which is one of the most important things. The moment of remembering is actually, the recognition is simultaneous with the moment of remembering. Such an interesting thing, because some people take years and years and years to awaken. And some people just take one moment to awaken. They just remember, and there they are. So what is it that we are dealing with in our day-to-day life? There is something there. If you've got a cold, if you've got a sickness, if you haven't got money, if you've got this, if you've got that, whatever you've got, there is something there. It's not that there isn't anything there. We do experience it. But what these lamas do, what these masters do in order to get us to see the truth is, they break it down. Everything that's in front of you, if I take this dish, okay, I can break it down to the metal that it was made of, and then to the atoms, and then to the person who put it together. It's all causes and conditions. It's never a finished product. The only finished product is our own essence. And so everything is going to change every minute. So what's important is to remember the actual deep truth. And that beautiful story, I've told this before, but I think it's really important, that once an old wise woman placed herself near the entrance of a large city in a contemplative position. A traveler came up to her and asked, "Oh, wise woman, what kind of people will I find in this big city?" "What kind of people did you find in the city from whence you came?" she inquired. "They were rogues, thieves, dishonest men," he replied. "Then you will find rogues, thieves, and dishonest men in this city too," she stated. Soon a second traveler came upon her and asked, "Oh, wise woman, what kind of people will I find in this big city?" "What kind of people lived in the city from whence you came?" she inquired. "They were all honest, kind, and God-living," he replied. "Then you will find the city filled with honest, kind, and God-loving beings," she replied. Now, it's such an important thing. I'm going to give you from certain important teaching tonight, what the mirror of the mind is really, really about. Because we reflect our own karmic causes. The only time we stop doing that is when we remember that it all came out of our mind. So not to go back to the mind to change. So why not go back to the mind to change the circumstances you're going through? Everything is a union of emptiness and appearance. So there's the essence and the appearance that comes out of it, and everything is an absolutely going back to those two things. So you can get there over the eons of time if you want, or one awakened moment, because it's already there. So if you just get it, you might be doing a little prayer and you might go, "Oh, that's unbelievable." Last night when I was meditating, I just got this sudden feeling about how things were in the world. And it actually made me cry. I wasn't sure. There was no analysis that I could do, but it actually made me cry because it was touching a point in me, that's something that I was remembering. And I think it's important that Dajjal Rinpoche, his quote, when he says to people who are going on to solitary meditation, he says, if you do not spoil phenomena with clinging and grasping, thoughts, appearances, and awareness will nakedly manifest as empty and luminous wisdom. Don't clutch. Now, when we look later at the ordinary human mind and the true nature of mind, the one is the clinging to the solidity of everything in your life. And that's the failure. And I'll throw it open for you to debate me on this because it's really important. But what he says in his heart gem for fortunate disciples, he says, however the phenomena of samsara and enlightenment appear, know that they are none other than the natural display of awareness. It's just your awareness that is showing the movie of your life. And he says, so thus decide upon the single awareness, just as waves of the ocean subside back into the ocean, all thoughts that arise vanish directly into awareness. If you've got the tool of awareness and you shine it on anything you happen to go through, it'll just dissolve. Definitely conclude, he says, that all phenomena are contained within this awareness. Now, Kathy, I don't know if you remember a long time ago, you sent me, because I've got your email still that you sent me. It was in, what year was it? I don't know. It doesn't give me, oh yeah, it was. It was in 2014 that you sent this email. Okay, so it's 10 years ago. This was an email you sent me on Minja Dorje's retreat that he had. Now, Younger Minja Rinpoche was this very, he was young, he was full of beans, he very much could relate. I actually did a course with him once at Sammy Ling, and he really was really a sticky young guy, and people crowded in for him wherever he went. People came for these big groups and big retreats and everything that he did for years. And I remember we all went for an interview with him, very spunky guy and everything. But what he did one day, he'd had enough. He'd had enough of all these people crowding around him, asking him things. He just one night sneaked out of his monastery and his place, okay, with nobody knowing. He took nothing. I think he took a little sack of a couple of his belongings, and he just disappeared. Okay, there was hell to pay. The next day, nobody knew where he went, and then eventually they got a letter. He said, I'm going into the Himalayas. I need about 5 years away from everybody and everything, and I need to do my own practice, which I can fully actually relate to. But anyway, nobody saw him and nobody knew what happened with him, and nobody knew if he had food, clothes, or money or anything like that. And one day, it was already about a year or two into his retreat, one of his disciples met him in the Himalayas. He had come into this village to get some food, and he went absolutely mad, and he said, wait, Rinpoche, I'm going to get you food. He brought him all sorts of things, and then he said to him, please write a letter. You've been away for a year or two. Please write a letter to all your disciples. So it's a long letter, but I'm just going to read you a little bit of what he dictated to his assistant. He said, I myself am wandering without any fixed location, staying in isolated mountain hermitages and other such places. I've experienced, now you can imagine from this master that everybody was bowing down to. Here he is in the Himalayas with nothing, okay? He said, I've experienced feelings of happiness and suffering, rising and falling like waves on the surface of the ocean. At times, food and clothing have been really hard to come by, and I felt cold, hungry, and thirsty. Even when I begged for food, I received nothing but insults and harsh words. At other times, I've received food and clothing effortlessly without even asking for them. And in my mind, it felt as I was enjoying the pleasures of the gods. While I've experienced both happiness and suffering, the most important thing is that a deep and heartfelt sense of a heartfelt sense of certainty has arisen in the depth of my being, so that no matter what happens, I know that the true nature of these experiences, their very essence, is that of timeless awareness and vast compassion. He said, this natural clarity of awareness has been with us from the very beginning. It is the very essence and true nature of our minds. Day and night, it's always present. Therefore, one must maintain the flow of pure awareness to the best of one's ability without meditating, yet not getting lost in distraction. Great love and compassion are also innate qualities of our being. All the thoughts, destructive emotions, and suffering we encounter are, in essence, completely permeated by vast compassion. As a sign of this, we naturally wish to enjoy happiness and to be free of suffering. While all beings have great wisdom and compassion, this is not always apparent. This is simply because they have not recognized what they already have. Thus, aside from merely recognizing our own true nature, there isn't the slightest thing to meditate on. Please practice diligently in this manner. Now, what happened was when he came back after a number of years, he came back. There was an interview between him and Taisitu Rinpoche, the great master in that I go to in India. There was this interview between them. I have never watched anything in my life that touched me like when these two met. It was like Minja Dorje Rinpoche, his whole face, he'd come back after 5 years in the Himalayas without doing anything. His whole being radiated light. And when these two met, do you remember that, Kathy, when they met? I've never, all I know is that when I looked at the two of them looking at each other, I said, I need to do that. Okay, I need to do that. There's no doubt in my mind. I need to have that radiance, that aliveness, that awareness, that light. There was nothing. And what was so beautiful to really learn about this was that, you understood that if you have awareness, then everything can change in front of you. And unawareness is forgetting. Awareness is remembering and knowing. Now, I just want to read you one little thing. I was listening to James Lowe talking on the song, the Doha of Virupa. And I just wrote down 3 things that he said, and I thought they're so appropriate here. And then we'll go on to look at some of the practices, okay? He said, he was talking about the song that this great, this Virupa had listened to. He said, if you look at a stage, an actual stage, he said, there's actors and a play and props on that stage. If the audience either boos because they don't like the play, or cheers and stands up and claps because they like the play, or they like the actors, or they like what it's all about, he said the stage is just the place on which the play is performed, but the stage is not affected in any way by the players or the play. And so he said, in the song it said, look at your own nature as a stage and look at all the difficulties you're going through as just the actors and the actions on the stage. And remember, the stage does not get affected by whatever the actors say, whether it's a good play, whether it's a bad play. I thought it was a wonderful analogy, because when you're in doubt and you're in the middle of the play, in the middle of the drama, go back to the stage, go back to your true nature. And then he said this, which I had to play it again and again to write it down. I think you all know what a shoehorn is. And, you know, my fingers getting older are really sore. So when I have to put tight tackies on, I've got to dig my fingers under. And this little quote that he gave made me remember there is such a thing as a shoehorn that can get you to fit easily into the tight tacky. But he said, the greatest shoehorn to get into life is self-forgetfulness. The greatest shoehorn is when you forget your own self-agenda. That's what he means, self-forgetfulness. When you forget your own self-agenda, then you're for the other. You're free of yourself. Our energy then articulates with another human being or with another being in some way. When you look at them, it becomes more important that you are in touch with that being, and that the shoehorn, which is what helps you to get into life, is when you forget that there is the self. That's the other side of the coin. Not forgetting who you are, but forgetting that this self is not permanent. It's only a temporary, transient thing. And he gives a lovely example. He says, this family bought a new kitten for their little children. He said, and so the children thought this was the greatest thing. They took their doggy's clothes and they put it on the kitten and they dressed the kitten. And eventually the kitten got mad and scratched the child who was trying to put these dolls' clothes. So the child came and said to her mother, this is not a nice kitten. I don't like him at all. Okay. Now, if you take that and relate it to life, how many times do we say, I don't like that person. What he did was wrong. What she did was right. How many times are these just our conditioned agendas? And the thing is, the kitten had another agenda. Now, many times when you're talking to someone, they might really give you a sock in the jaw and be quite rude, as someone was to me last week. I was trying to help them to understand that all their suffering situations, you know, the way they could get back to it was to come back to the true nature of mind. And this person said, you are arrogant, you think you know everything, was very vicious towards me. And, you know, it's the first time in my life I smiled. I really smiled, because I remembered Patrul Rinpoche's saying, if you get insulted, it's wonderful for the ego. Okay, it just takes that curved knife and it cuts off the ego. And I thought, so strange, because I've got a different agenda to this person. Now, if I really need to help this person, I'm going to have to change my self-agenda, because I've got to see it from their perspective. So in light of all of that, some of you might want to say something, and you're very welcome, or ask something or comment on that, because it's really extremely important that you understand what I'm saying in terms of forgetfulness and remembering. Anyone want to ask or say anything, please, because I've given you a lot of stuff there to really think about. You see, The
I
story
can
of,
see that if Avril's trying to talk, but I don't know if her sound is working.
please, Ev, come on, I want to. Not working, just put your sound on. There's like a thing there. Oh, there's Minja Rinpoche's story. Lovely. Ev, can you not put your sound on?
I
So
think she's trying to
It's on, Mel, but
connect
there's
again.
nothing coming through,
Yeah.
unfortunately. It might be that the wrong device is selected in Zoom. If you click on the microphone, the little arrow next to the microphone, and then look for the correct microphone, it sometimes goes
And
to
now?
yes.
okay,
Yeah.
good. You've
Okay,
got
it's okay. Have you got me? Okay, so now I can't see anybody. I was just wondering when you when you had the insult and it was a moment, as you said, it was like a slice through the ego. So how would you then have approached it differently?
You see, when I looked at it, it was so interesting because what I did was, instead of responding with a self agenda and say, you can like take a running hike kind of thing, which is maybe what I would have done in the old days. I would have said, well, tough luck, that's what I'm offering. I actually did a different agenda. I actually wrote back and said, you know what? I'm really sorry that you feel this way about me. It actually wasn't my intention, but perhaps we need to relook at this. And perhaps I was going too fast to tell you about this nature of which you weren't ready. And I really am sorry that that happened. So it's a very interesting thing because it's a completely different way to how I would have done it in the past. It's completely different. And I think this is what we are remembering because we are here so that we can take duality. Duality is what SEM, the ordinary human mind, has. It's I'm here and you there. This is my agenda, that's your agenda, and mine's always right. Okay. And the thing is that when you stop with duality and you look at another person, a person that's really hurt you very badly, sometimes when you put that question mark, you see where they're coming from. And suddenly the anger goes away because you're seeing all of it as oneness. I know that in my mind that was very important because I was trying to help this person to take all the suffering and put it into one and go to the mirror, what was reflecting the suffering. But clearly that human being isn't ready for that. And so that's my fault for giving my agenda. And that's what we're trying to do without duality. We're trying to join, we're trying to look at people and not judge them with all our causes and conditions. The nature of mind never judges. When you come from the nature of mind, it sees things as they are, not as you perceive them with your conditioned karma. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's really a completely different approach. And I really feel that in my heart. I'm not saying that I win with it all the time, but I think it's really important to look at people and try and see their beautiful parts and how they're suffering and what it really means to them. It's really important.
And I think this is also interesting for me because as you can see, I'm in hospital at the moment, not the nicest place in the world to be.
I thought you in bed. I couldn't believe it.
No. But anyway, but the point of the story is I'm in a ward and there's a machine that's going off all the time and it's very, very aggravating. And my nature is the nature that would have to get up and make it stop because it's highly aggravating for me and I'm not going to be able to sleep. But as you were talking in this lecture, in this talk tonight, talking about the stage and the sense of this duality, it occurred to me that it isn't these big moments where this plays out. It's in these moments when the machine is making a noise and that's it. that like suddenly it's like, okay, well, this is the moment. This is it. This is like, there's maybe a lady attached to the machine that machine has got doing something really important for her. And maybe it's not so much about,
Me.
me, and also that's just that's just the stage over there. Or the
Maybe
platform.
this is your beautiful time to do what we just did in the Chen Rezi thing. Make it into a pure land. So hear the sound of the machine as Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Yeah, change it. Hear it as mantras if you can.
But just looking at it in a different way, it is immediately transformed and has stopped being irritating.
Wonderful, 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 and so
That's
important.
post-op meds are working very well.
Fantastic. And make it a pure land. And also use your time. I don't know what you're doing there. I'm just sorry that you're there, but use that time to help all the people, even in your own mind, who are in the ward, who are whatever they are doing and everything. Use that for your bodhicitta motivation. So say, whatever sadness people are going, whatever suffering they're going, may I help and may I take it on and may I bring light into this ward. It's a beautiful opportunity.
Mm.
Really it is. That's really important. Anyone
Mel?
else? Yes,
Mel?
please.
Yeah,
Please.
just talking about that. When we used to go to the fishmonger, they always used to make a gong as the meal was ready to be served. And it drove us mad. And then my friend said, that's the meditation bell. That's the meditation gong. And it just completely changed it totally. And then there was also a beautiful quote that I found. It said, I wish I could show you when you are lonely or in darkness, the astonishing light of your own being. It was in one of Eckhart Tolle's prefaces.
Beautiful.
I
Beautiful.
thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, and if you stayed in Thich Nhat Hanh's Plum Village, you would see that, when everybody was walking around, suddenly the gong went like this, okay? The gong went in the whole village and everybody stopped. And that was to be aware, to be mindful. So they all had to stop and breathe. And then the gong went again, and then they all went on doing their work. And I think maybe we should do it in our house. We should say, everybody stop with the gong, breathe, come to your awareness, and then carry on after that. That's the most beautiful way to get to this true nature of mind. So if nobody else wants to say anything,
Now, I've got something to say about, because it reminds me a lot of what Tupton was teaching last week, and about his little micro moments of awareness.
Exactly.
He calls them micro moments of awareness. So the idea is that any moment that you can, especially for him, it's moments of waiting at the bus stop, waiting at the train station, waiting at the airport, where we conditioned to become stressed or irritated, or we have some expectation, we're the customer, we should be getting this, we should be getting that. And then when those moments of irritation arise, instead of falling into that stress or like, I've got to go, I need to be there, I need this, I need that, we meet it with compassion and awareness that we become aware of the stress and the irritation. And that's how we strengthen that little muscle of awareness. Not just on the meditation cushion, but also in our daily lives.
As he's standing there, he said, touch your feet on the ground.
That's it.
And say, I'm grounded. And
Yes.
start breathing and come to your awareness and keep doing it during the day. And eventually you'll find your mind starts focusing and all that distraction goes away. It's a very wonderful way. It really is. So we were talking last time about looking at how we could get back to that mind. And I just want to finish with a couple of those things and then go to the distinction between the human part of the mind and the awakened part of the mind. We were talking about how the various Buddhist practices actually take you back to the mind. You know, what is so interesting, and I have lots of these discussions at home, is that a lot of people do not understand the use of what the Buddhist practices are, from the simplest practices to the most complex practices. And David, I was listening to your beautiful Ian Baker and what he was saying, and I mean, it's amazing how those yogis and yoginis, how they actually get to this nature of mind. But look, a lot of us are not going to be in mountains and Himalayas and having amazing teachers who come and teach us. But we can do little practices. And during this holiday period, I really did one little video on Buddhist practice for busy people. I think it was about a 20-minute practice. And I think it's on the videos. You've just got to go on the playlists now because they're putting it all into the playlists. And go for those of you that want a short practice and don't know how to do it. But what's important that I said last time is the refuge of some description, even if it is. I was sitting with somebody yesterday who isn't a Buddhist, and I just said, come into my room and just take some kind of refuge. And she asked me, what do you mean by refuge? I said, we need some kind of security. You could start with an outer refuge, and then you can take an inner refuge later. Refuge and bodhicitta are non-negotiable. What's bodhicitta? It's what I gave you the prayer last week, just asking to be able to help all sentient beings. And whatever you do, let it be beneficial for sentient beings. Okay. Then the purification practices. Shame she's having trouble in that hospital. Then the purification practices, and those are very important. If any of you want any of them, I've even got short ones that you can use. But one of the most important ones is the Guru Yoga. And a lot of you already do the Guru Yoga. There are also videos that I've given on the Guru Yoga, but the Guru Yoga changes your ordinary body, your ordinary speech, your ordinary mind. Your mind is here in the heart, to Vajra body, speech, and mind, and then overall, which actually, if you do that Guru Yoga, you can do a very short practice, and I've got videos of it, how to do it. And it's really, really a beautiful practice to awaken and to get in touch with your true nature. And just to say to all of you that the tantric practice or the Vajrayana that you were doing tonight, like Chenrezig practice, what's important is this is not just a ritualistic practice. This is a way of transforming this human body into whichever deity you happen to relate to, because the deity is nothing external, it's all internal, it's the qualities that you want. And so the three aspects of Vajrayana practice, which is creation, mantra recitation, and dissolution, those three are the story of life. The essence, out of the essence, you take the energy, which is the mantra recitation, and then it dissolves back into the essence. Starts at the essence, come back. So this training teaches us what we've tragically forgotten. We think we this person with these qualities, but when we do the training, we start us so often from doing years and years and years of Green Tara practice. It's so second nature to me that when I'm in a circumstance where I really am thinking how to respond to a situation, immediately that Tara perfected action comes into my being. So you're transforming this temporary being into the qualities of the practice that you are doing. And when you go to the very higher practices, which are Mahamudra and Dzogchen, there you just go right past your mundane life, because the assumption is that you are already a Buddha, you are already enlightened, and you've just got to use certain practices to jump over and get there. So please don't underestimate practice. It's really, really, really important. You know, Esti, do you not relate to the practice? Is it time, or is it that it's in Tibetan? Is it do you not relate at all to the practice? I'm just interested to know. You know,
I'm in a different place at the moment, so I can talk about it. Thanks.
okay. Okay, but when you are ready, talk about it, because it's interesting for everyone. Because I know that so many people, you know, look at the practices and think they're rituals, they for this, they for that. They're just the tools to get you to awaken to this true nature of mind, which is really important. So let's just look at what the true nature of mind is, and then let's do a little meditation. Okay, I'm going to do it from a beautiful text called the Golden Letters. And the Golden Letters is a very, very interesting book that John Murden Reynolds actually translated and gave us. And I think I wrote down in my little silver book the whole thing of what the true nature of mind is according to the Golden Letters. And this is what it said. Mind, human mind, and the nature of mind. It said, in Dzogchen, which is one of the higher practices, there's a fundamental distinction between the nature of mind and the mind or thought processes. So the one is your true nature, the one is just the mind. They said it's an incessant flow in the thought process of discursive thoughts which continually arise into your consciousness. In his introduction, the master likens our nature of mind to a highly reflective mirror, in fact, they say better to say a crystalline holographic mirror, which is very transparent. And that mirror gives you the characteristics, okay, the mirror gives you the characteristics of clarity, purity, and transparency. And all our thoughts, our emotions, our impulses, our feelings are like reflections in this mirror. So whatever is happening, if I put the watch, you can see the watch's reflection immediately in the mirror. It reflects everything. When you have intrinsic awareness, okay, the state of immediate presence, it's like the capacity of this mirror to reflect whatever is set before it. Good image, bad image, pure image, impure image, beautiful image, ugly image. And just as these reflections in no way change or modify the nature of the mirror, they never change it. So in no way do the discursive thoughts that arise in the mind change or modify the nature of your mind. It's really important, because if you put an ugly thing in front of this mirror, let's say a phone's quite an ugly thing, okay? The mirror never changes. The reflections change, the mirror never changes. And when integrated into the knowledge of this intrinsic awareness, we live in the condition of the nature of the mirror. But if we lack awareness, if we forget, if we don't have awareness and we remain in ignorance, we live in the condition of the reflections, not the condition of the mirror. We live in the condition of the reflections, thinking that whatever arises before our consciousness is somehow real and substantial. So get your tool of intrinsic awareness, you live in the condition of the mirror, in which nothing changes the condition of the mirror. Soon as you live in ignorance in the reflections, you lose the nature of the mirror and you think that those reflections are real. You know, when you go into you know, like a theater or some place that you go into, a park or something, and they've got all these different mirrors and you look at the reflections are different, but you're not different. You haven't changed. The nature of the mirror never ever changed. Now, these reflections that were in the mirror originally, not now, originally, they're all made of rainbow light. Okay, because originally the condition of all the elements was rainbow light. But because of ignorance, because of our obscurations, those reflections that were once rainbow light come to appear as solid and opaque and become the whole material world surrounding us. And we, unfortunately, become attached to these phantoms or holographic projections that represent the beginningless cycle of existence we know as samsara, the wheel of life. All this comes about because of a lack of that wisdom, of that awareness. So what he's saying in this beautiful, beautiful text is, originally, there was the essence, which you could take as the mirror. Whatever came out of the mirror had this beautiful colored light. When you see with your wisdom eye, you don't see the tangible, opaque world. You see a beautiful, absolutely exquisite, luminous, full of color when you really look in it. And so, because we don't have that awareness, those images become material and coarse, and we start grabbing onto them, forgetting completely the nature of the nature of mind, which is just reflecting images. That's all it's doing. And we see those images as, and what happens is, in the pure case of the vision of nirvana, the beautiful vision, or the impure vision of samsara that we've made, it's the same nature of mind out of which they both come. It's the same mirror that reflects all objects set before it. Some are beautiful, some are ugly, but there's no change in the nature of mind, just as there's no change in the nature of the mirror, because the mirror or the nature of mind is primordially pure. So there's never a change. I want you to understand it. It's beyond time. It's beyond everything. If you can get this, it's absolutely amazing, because right from the beginning, our nature of mind has always been pure and always had these reflections. First they were pure, now they're impure, and they're not any longer. They're opaque. We think they're solid, but they've never really changed. It's just our perception of how they change. And I really think what he says here is that if you discover the one single experience of the state of immediate awareness, one discovers the entire universe. It's so important to know this one thing is to know all things. And it's so amazing because a single mirror reflects all the events. And he says, then when you understand this nature of mind, then all your experiences just become one with who you are. I know it sounds like a fantasy, but it isn't. I watch these masters. They live like this. It's absolutely amazing. Ask Kathy. She's just had a weekend with all of them. What did you notice about them? Even Lama Yeshe Rinpoche, who used to always joke and talk, and now, you know, he's very, very quiet. But what did you feel in his presence? Nothing. He doesn't miss anything.
You know, it actually,
It's interesting.
you know, because a lot of us are so used to a Lama Yeshe that jokes around and smiles and grabs
Yeah.
you and kind of, you know, pulls your ear and stuff. This version of Lama Yeshe, there's none of that, but it also gives you an opportunity to just relax, because you don't actually have to play a game, or you don't have to. He doesn't have the energy. He's actually too old now, and with his health, he just
Okay.
actually he doesn't have the energy to be that playful self. But it doesn't
don't-
even Breville notice. But
Plenty energy, but I
yeah,
think now his energy has all gone inwards. So
and
for
yes,
somebody that used to talk a lot, you know, when
yes,
I was with him, he used to talk a tremendous amount.
yes,
He talked very little, but
very little.
at the sentences that he says, the
Yeah,
words that he said are so profound. And it's
totally,
like when you're sitting there, you can see your own reflection in him. So, you know, when I'm
totally.
with him, I mean, since they've been in South Africa a lot of time, and I go there at least once every 2 weeks, you know, to bring him food and things like that. And when I'm sitting there, it's such an amazing experience, because, you know, with other people, you might want to talk and fill the space. It's okay to sit quietly. It's okay because something is being reflected to you all the time.
Absolutely.
You know, amazing. So do you all get what I'm saying about the mirror? It's really, really, really important, because when you look at the difference between the way the human mind tackles things and the way the nature of mind tackles things, with Sem, the relative mind, there's always grasping, fixating, binding, greed. With the luminous mind, with Rigpa, with the awakened mind, it's the way things really are. No desire to grasp, just total freedom. So when something comes your way, you just allow it to be. You're not grabbing onto it. You're not fixating. An idea comes into your head. What happens to us when an idea comes into our head? Most of us, you analyze, you plan, you think about it. Then you think, okay, that's enough. I'm going to sit now and be quiet. And then we go and pick it up again. We can't stop grasping. That's the difference between the human part of the mind and the nature of mind. And in the human part of the mind, everything's dualistic. You there, and I'm separated from you. In the nature of mind, it's inseparable indivisibility of the essence and the manifestation. There's oneness. Don't you want oneness? Don't you want to be one with everything? When I look at my dogs, I often look at them and I think, you know, it's so interesting what they think. They've got so many ideas about life. You know, how do they know that the time is 1 o'clock and at lunchtime they get their lunch at 1 o'clock? I mean, they don't have a watch. But how do they know that at 1 o'clock they start scratching or calling or barking or coming to the dish? How the heck do they know that it's 1 o'clock? I mean, we have to make ourselves unite instead of this duality of I'm over here and you're over there. We see that everybody's pain is your pain. Everybody's everything is yours, and yours is theirs.
Yeah,
When
you know what's interesting, Mel, is that I didn't have much time with Lama Yeshe Rinpoche. I mean, I went in briefly and offered him a kata and said something to him, and he just said good, and then it was over, you know. And then I saw him and we sang the song and that. But a couple of days after I've seen him, I just feel this weird confidence that I just can't explain. I just feel very settled and calm and happy, and that's it.
Yeah. Because the mirror, when you're in
Yeah.
touch, the mirror reflects that beautiful, beautiful feeling, you know. And when you're in there, they are in the presence of their nature of mind. It's amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't, there's like the game, there's no game, you know, you don't actually have to do anything. And anything you feel in your head, or any thought, or any disappointment, or any feeling, or any stress, it's actually all you. It's all your mind that's, it's all my mind that's playing or overthinking or, you know, going with the story, because there's nothing, he's just there reflecting to you something you need to see.
No,
Very
it's
interesting.
It's very interesting. And if you understand this nature of mind, you will start having confidence. Because in this book, Garib Dorje says his 3 points: you introduce to the nature of mind, you make your decision. That's what the whole book is about. You definitely decide upon this unique state. And the 3rd point is you continue down directly with confidence in liberation. All I want to do with all of you is just plant the seed. Oh, I am my nature of mind. This is my nature of mind. So when you're in a situation, instead of plummeting in with the human planning mind, you just stay back a little and wait. And then slowly allow something else from you, from within you, to come through you to do it in the correct way. And if you just make that pause that Tupton's talking about, that just getting in touch, it's absolutely amazing. Let's practice that. And then just do 1 or 2 things more about, about it. But I think you can all understand completely that this nature of mind, this mirror, is never affected by the causes and conditions. Never. Whereas the human part of the mind operates through causes and conditions, nothing else. What does that tell you? What does it tell you? I mean, it's so interesting, because you have to stop and you have to look at, what am I getting hysterical about this for? Let it play out. It will play out and it will dissolve. Let it play out. But our mind says, no, I must go in, pick it up and do something about it. Fee, what are you thinking? You're in a deep state of thought.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Mel. I mean, I do agree that sort of backing off and just letting it be, it helps. It does help.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a situation at the moment, like I can't really back off because I've got to do something about it. So, I mean, what happens when you've got really practical issues? I mean, not this sort of thing of like, what did that person say and why did they say it? And I'm not talking about that sort of thing, but when you have a really practical challenge in your life, you can't really back off at times. You've got to actually do something about it. You know, that's what.
But do you know how you can look at it? Some of you are too young to know, at some of you are my age group, when you used to put a call through at a hotel or in some, in a school or anything, the person who sat on the phone had those plugs. I don't know what you call it. And I mean, if you phoned in, I mean, now it's so ridiculous, but if you phoned in, then the woman would say, hold on, I'm putting you through. Then she'd take a plug out of the wall and put it into another plug to connect you, Now, when you're in a situation, it's such an important thing, because when you're in a situation like that, put the plug in where it needs to go, and then let it happen. It's something I'm learning so deeply. So yes, you have to take the lottery ticket. You have to put the plug in if you want to make a connection. But sometimes this overthinking of things, this over responding to things, this I must see how this is going to go. Sometimes if you just hang on and put the plug in, it starts operating of its own accord. That's what I find so often. It's unbelievable.
It's very
Really.
true, Mel. I agree with you there, because I mean, I'm finding that normally in this particular situation, which is actually quite serious, I'd be getting really uptight and thinking, look, it's not that that isn't happening, but it's like, oh, well, let's just give it a few days and see what happens. Let's see if it resolves itself of it, of itself, and it resolves naturally. My impulse, of course, from time to time is to phone somebody and say, well, what's happening with this, and why haven't you done this? And I just have to just calm down and just not do that. And
Become aware, become the mirror.
Yeah.
And say, hang on, this is reflection. You might have to do something about it.
Yeah,
you
sure.
can't leave things undone and say,
no, sure. No.
Not becoming a passive agent,
No.
to becoming a mirror, allowing things to go through you. When I'm teaching, when I'm preparing stuff for you and I'm reading this and I'm reading that and I'm putting it all together, that's what I do when I'm preparing so that it's all different and it's rich and it's got lots of stuff for you to enjoy. But when I get here, it changes completely. What I had in mind, what I was going to do tonight, isn't happening. Okay, it's different. There are a couple of things that I've done. I've got my plan. I do watch a lot of these teachers don't prepare stuff. Okay, and sometimes they waffle on and on and on and on. Okay, because nobody's saying anything and nothing's really happening, and they've got to stand in front of the audience. I prefer to have a lot of things here to pick from, whatever I want, but to take the response from you to me and see what is needed. So I might change. I might do the meditation at a different point. I might take something completely different that I want to teach you. It just happens. It's some part of you, the mirror, the true nature of mind that allows things to go through. And that's called the wisdom of perfected action. Whereas your doing of it comes from ego. Sem is ego-based. Ego wants safety. Ego wants this. Ego wants its own agenda to be played out.
Yeah.
Nature of mind doesn't have any ego and doesn't have an agenda. Just listen to people. You know how many people have got an agenda in their conversations?
Yeah.
That's been playing out with me as exactly as you described, is that there's been there's been two circumstances in the last week where I was like, yo, did I say that? Because it just flowed through me, and it was amazing. It was very much Dharma related, but I didn't even remember that I remembered all that stuff, but it was very relevant. And I mean, that's exactly what happens, but it's in reference, I have a similar situation as you have with regards to a practical matter that needs resolution. And it's quite difficult sometimes when you have the righteousness of your position. And, there did come this moment of awareness where I could see this whole thing playing out and where I was standing in the righteousness of my position.
Unbelievable.
And that's what you're talking about, is that it's the switchboard, by the way, the plugs that you described. It's like not going down that road in a sense, but just putting in the plug and then letting it unfold and not making the whole big fat story around it and you're involved in it.
Exactly. And it's really, if you can get this, I just wanted to find this reference because I think it's really so, just let me see which page it was, because I marked a whole lot of pages in this beautiful Vajrahat revisiting, but I think it's really, just let me see if I can find it quickly. If I can't, I won't go. Okay, I'm just going to give you this. The main difference between Sem and Rigpa, Sem's the human part of the mind and Rigpa's the nature of mind, is that during Rigpa, thought cannot take root. It's like pouring mercury onto dust. Now, when you pour mercury onto dust, it runs off. But Sem is like pouring water onto dust. It mingles quickly in the mud. But Rigpa doesn't fixate on objects or fall under the power of thoughts, whereas Sem does. Now, when you are trying to resolve a problem that is in front of you, and very often, I mean, I have people sitting in front of me and they want a solution. Okay, they want a solution to whatever problem they've got. And it's very easy to step forward and give a solution. But sometimes, if you just make a little suggestion, that's like the plug. You make a little suggestion or you make a little beginning, and then you allow it to take its root and you allow it to take its course instead of mingling it here. It's really, really, really important, you know, because he says here, you know, that Sem has got the ego is the prime mover in your human mind. It's always looking for safety. It's always looking for security. It's always looking for a place where it can be. Whereas Sem Ni, the nature of mind or Rigpa, is never, ever looking for a place. You know, that part of you is just allows things to be. It's so important. And you know what? It doesn't take long to get to know how to do it. If you just start during the day, let's start right now. Okay. Now, you're in the middle of a terrible crisis in the office. Let's not say someone's dying, but let's say you have to make a decision. This is a very important thing, and you're not sure what you should do, and you're not sure who's telling the truth, and you're not sure of anything. So you just stand where you are, okay? And all you do is you take in your breath. You just breathe in. You don't make a decision. You just breathe in. And you just imagine the pure Dharmata, the space, the openness, the blueness, because it's always blue, that deep, luminous blue. And you just breathe it in. And when you breathe out, you almost surrender the crisis that you've got right now. So you actually feel your hands just letting it go into this beautiful Dharmata that you breathed into. So just for a moment, you surrender, you feel all the balloons tied to your hands. You just let them go into the sky. And you take another 2 breaths and feel the ground under your feet because you're standing. And let this great crisis just leave you, leave your hands completely and totally. And just stay still, being totally and utterly aware and not affected. And you will find, as you are standing there, consciousness, there is an awareness. Awareness, intrinsic awareness is the tool. And in that awareness, you will know. Because as you're standing there, someone comes up to you and says, don't you think, or should we, or whatever, and you just understand. You've just spent a half a minute standing there, without distraction, with total awareness that you're in the moment. The past is gone, the future hasn't been made, and you are in that fourth time dimension. No time, not affected. And what happens when you do this several times in the day? Everything that is hassling you, the finances, the job, the people that are annoying, the horrible things someone said to you, the business you've got to do, the situation in your country, the politics, you just surrender it all into the spaciousness of the huge, huge capacity of the nature of mind. Remember, Sen, your relative mind, is impermanent, transient, changing all the time. The ultimate mind, Rigpa, always was, always is, always will be, is spacious and is right within you. You don't have to go anywhere to find it. And what you've really got to understand is that the relative mind is unknowing, unaware, forgetting, and the true nature of mind is fully aware, fully cognizant, fully clear, has clarity, luminosity, and much compassion flowing. So what we're learning is, don't forget that the true nature of mind is in you already. And if you just take the moment to be in touch with it, to use your intrinsic awareness, then everything starts to unfold. Not always the way you think it should, but when you watch it later, in retrospect, you realize that everything was done from a completely different viewpoint. So next time that you're in a pickle, just put your hand on your heart where your true nature is. They call it Tigla Nutchik. It's beautiful. It's full of rainbow light. It's blue, blue, blue in the middle. Just put your hand there, be in touch, and let go of all the strings, the analysis, the working everything out, the grasping, the fixating, the intellectualizing, the planning, the labeling, the judging. Let it all be. Come back to that absolute nature. Can you all get an idea of it? Di, you quiet, my little Di. You okay? Can you all get an idea of this? Because that's why I did that thing on forgetfulness, because I think that we're running around so much with the reflections, with the opaque, tangible pictures in your nature of mind, that we're just not getting there. And remember, when you die, just remember when you die, all the levels of consciousness, 8 levels of consciousness, okay? 8 levels of consciousness die, except the alaya consciousness, which goes with you. But all the other, the sense consciousnesses, the mind consciousnesses, the judge, the human emotions, all of them die when you're dying. And what you're left with is your true nature of mind. But most people don't recognize that at all. Will you ponder that? It's really important. So next time you're in a pickle, just stop and say, let me get to my awareness. And from my awareness, let it unfold, let it go through you into the light. So all of you, maybe a lot of you look quite tired tonight. So all I want to say is, please go back and get, if you're not sure of where, or you need any question, I'm still around for a while, but then I'm going to be overseas. And then we're going to start again at the beginning of September with a totally new topic. And I just wish all of you well. Just all I want you to do is find that true nature of being. Wherever you are, wherever you are. That's your insurance policy. Mark, do you want to say anything? You okay? Anyone? All right, well, let's dedicate. And then all of you just have a lovely break. Take your time to go through things and see what you want. It's all there. The practices are there. The Guru Yoga is there. The death and dying teachings are there. And they're all being put beautifully together by Bernice and Edith are taking them and trying to put all the lectures together so that people can get hold of them. So you can get hold of whatever topics you want. Okay. So let's just dedicate for all sentient beings.
Mel, can I share something quickly before we finish? I wanted to share that image of Taisitu and Minja Rinpoche
Oh,
seeing each
yes.
other there.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Let's see. Oh, look, you know, his hair was long. He was a monk before. Oh, how beautiful, Fee, that you got it. So divine. Look, this. That was when they met, when he just came out of retreat. That is stunning. And I mean, he normally had his head shaven and he had this long hair. But when I saw him, he was just shining light.
Yes.
It was absolutely, oh, that is so beautiful. Those two, they're wonderful, really. Those two use their nature of mind. But isn't that a wonderful picture? When he just came back and there was such joy between them. I watched that interview. That's so beautiful. That's how we've all got to be. So maybe I think I'll go off to the Himalayas and go. My husband's delighted if I do. Maybe I'll go in the Himalayas and then some of you can come there and meet me and give me a bit of food or something. I'll probably be dead in the first 6 months or something. But let's dedicate, that's so beautiful, Fee. Let's dedicate to all sentient beings, all the suffering, all those children that died yesterday and the day before, all those children that were murdered in the UK, all the people that are going through wars and hatreds and anger. We dedicate whatever there is. Through this merit, may we achieve all-seeing Buddhahood, and thereafter, once all harmful enemies have been defeated, may all beings be liberated from the ocean of existence, stirred by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Sonam die tamche zipane topne nepe dranam pamshene jegana chibala topaye sipe sole doadro warsho. I really hope we can change the world a little bit. I think it needs it.